What if the most dangerous target in the Middle East is not a missile site, not a military base, and not an army standing in the open, but a mountain that cannot be easily bombed, a mountain that cannot be easily invaded, a mountain that forces the world's most powerful military to confront a question it has avoided for generations. What happens when technology reaches its limit? Deep beneath hundreds of feet of solid rock, hidden from satellites and sealed away from the outside world, Iran may have built something designed around one simple idea: survive the first attack. Because in modern warfare, the strongest defense is not always a stronger weapon. Sometimes it is making yourself too difficult to reach, and that is exactly what makes Pickaxe. It is not just a facility, it is a strategic challenge. On a satellite image, the landscape looks almost empty. A remote mountain region, dry terrain, few roads, nothing that immediately reveals why governments thousands of miles away are watching every movement around it. But beneath that ordinary landscape is a structure built around secrecy, a place intelligence agencies believe may represent one of Iran's most protected nuclear sites. The name sounds almost harmless: Pickaxe Mountain. But the reality underneath tells a different story. The mountain itself is the weapon. Not because it can attack, because it can survive. For years, countries have built underground facilities to protect their most valuable military assets: command centers, missile storage, research facilities. The logic is simple. If an enemy cannot reach the target remains alive. But Pickaxe Mountain takes that idea to another level. The deeper it goes, the more difficult the question becomes. Not, can the United States strike Iran? The United States has answered that question many times. The real question is, can the United States strike this? And that changes everything. The story of Pickaxe Mountain did not begin with a bomb. It began with a lesson. For decades, Iran watched other countries develop technologies designed to defeat: stealth aircraft precision, guided weapons, satellite surveillance, massive bunker-busting bombs. The message was clear. Surface targets could no longer rely on distance alone. If a country wanted to protect something important, it had to move underground. And Iran appeared to understand that future battlefield. The deeper the facility became, the harder it became for outside forces to influence what happened inside. But here is the contradiction. A bunker creates protection, yet protection creates suspicion. The more secret a facility becomes, the more dangerous it appears to opponents. The mountain was built to prevent attack, but its existence may be increasing the pressure to attack. Years before Pickaxe Mountain became the center of global attention, another Iranian nuclear facility showed the limits of conventional power. A major underground site was struck by American bunker-busting weapons. The images that followed sent a powerful message. The United States possessed the ability to reach hardened targets. Stealth aircraft could penetrate defended airspace. Precision weapons could destroy infrastructure from above. For a moment, it appeared that no underground facility was beyond reach. But the lesson Iran took from that strike was different. The lesson was not: underground facilities can be destroyed. The lesson was: future facilities must go deeper. And that is where the strategic race changed. Because every new weapon creates a new defense. Every bunker creates a new bomb. Every bomb creates a deeper bunker. A cycle that has shaped warfare for more than a century. Now imagine the inside of the mountain, far away from the sunlight, hundreds of feet below the surface. Concrete tunnels disappearing into darkness. Machines operating in spaces the outside world cannot see. The mountain is no longer just geography. It becomes a shield. Experts believe the facility could sit roughly between 300 and 500 feet underground, protected by layers of rock designed to absorb punishment from above. That depth matters because traditional weapons are built around a basic assumption that the force of the explosion can reach the target. But what happens when the target is buried deeper than the weapon is designed to penetrate? This is where the problem begins. A weapon can be extremely powerful, but power without access is limited. The United States has one of the most advanced bunker-busting weapons ever created. The G-Buffet, massive ordnance penetrator. A weapon designed specifically for hardened underground targets. A 30,000-pound bomb carried by the B-Fay stealth bomber. A symbol of American precision and technological advantage. When these weapons were used against Iranian nuclear infrastructure, they demonstrated something important. The United States could reach places many nations believed were protected by distance and defense systems. But Pickaxe Mountain created a new challenge, because the question was no longer whether America had a bunker buster. The question was whether even the best conventional weapon was enough. And that is a much more difficult problem. Inside military planning rooms, the options become uncomfortable. There are no perfect solutions. One option is force on the ground, a direct operation, specialized troops entering Iranian territory, finding the underground facility and physically destroying what lies inside. On paper, it is simple. In reality, it is one of the most dangerous missions imaginable. The mountain is not sitting in friendly territory. It is surrounded by Iranian defenses, air defense systems, military units, a complex environment where every step creates new uncertainty. A ground operation would not just be an attack on a facility, it would be a major military campaign, and campaigns rarely unfold exactly as planned. The second option creates an even larger debate. If conventional weapons cannot reach the deepest parts of the mountain, what weapon could? That question moves the discussion into territory the world has avoided for decades. Nuclear weapons, a category of weapon that has existed since Fay, but has not been used in combat since the Second World War. Even discussing such a possibility changes the strategic environment, because nuclear weapons are not only measured by explosive power, they are measured by consequences. A conventional strike sends one message, a nuclear strike sends another, and every country watching would interpret that message differently. This is why Pickaxe Mountain has become more than an Iranian problem. On the surface, it appears to be a military question. Can the facility be destroyed? But beneath that question is something much larger. Who controls escalation? Who decides where the limits of warfare exist? Who determines whether a new line should be crossed? Because the mountain is not only protecting a facility, it is forcing the world to debate how far nations are willing to go. The visible conflict is easy to understand. A nuclear site, a possible threat, a powerful military considering its options. But the deeper conflict is harder to see. It is a battle between having the power to act and understanding the consequences of acting. The world sees a mountain, military planners see a problem, but the part most people miss is this: the mountain was never designed only to protect what is inside. It was designed to create uncertainty outside. And in modern warfare, uncertainty may be the strongest defense of all, because the next battle over Pickaxe Mountain may not begin with an explosion. It may begin with a decision. Everyone looking at Pickaxe Mountain sees the same thing. A mountain, a nuclear facility, a target that is simply too deep to reach. But the part most people miss is that the mountain itself is not the battlefield. The rock is only the surface. The real battlefield is the decision hidden behind it. Because modern warfare is no longer only about destroying what an enemy builds. It is about forcing an enemy to reveal what they are willing to risk. And Pickaxe Mountain has created a problem unlike almost any other target in recent history. A target that cannot easily be destroyed. A target that forces every option to carry a consequence. On a military planning screen inside a command center, the image is simple: a mountain range, a circle around a location, a list of possible actions: strike, delay, negotiate, escalate. But behind those options is a much larger question. What happens when the weapon capable of solving one problem creates several new ones? Because the deepest lesson of Pickaxe Mountain is not about bombs. It is about control. The United States has spent decades building the most advanced military force in history. Stealth aircraft, precision weapons, global intelligence networks, unmatched logistics. But here is the contradiction. The more powerful a military becomes, the more carefully it must consider when that power can actually be used. A weapon can create victory on the battlefield, but it can also create uncertainty beyond it. And that uncertainty may become the most dangerous weapon of all. Everyone thinks this battle is about destroying a mountain, but the real battle is about controlling the future decisions that come after the strike. Because if Pickaxe Mountain survives, Iran gains something more valuable than concrete and tunnels. It gains time to develop, time to adapt, time to force opponents into harder choices. But if the United States crosses a nuclear threshold to eliminate it, Washington may solve one immediate problem while creating a global strategic crisis. This is the trap. The mountain is not just protecting uranium. It is protecting a decision that every major power is watching on a map of the world. Pickaxe Mountain is only one location, a single point in Iran. But strategically, it sits at the intersection of several competing systems: nuclear proliferation, energy security, regional power, great power rivalry. The mountain became important because of what it represents, not what it contains. Look beyond the tunnels. Look beyond the weapons. Look at the world economy. Thousands of miles away, oil traders do not see a mountain in Iran. They see risk because any military confrontation involving Iran has consequences far outside Iranian territory. The Persian Gulf remains one of the most important energy regions on Earth. Every day, enormous volumes of energy move through this area. Every threat, every military deployment, every escalation changes calculations in financial markets and government offices around the world. This creates another contradiction. A strike designed to prevent instability could create a different form of instability. A military operation intended to remove a threat could introduce a new global crisis. The lesson here is simple. In modern conflict, targets are connected. Destroying one node can affect an entire network. And that network includes not only armies, it includes economies. Now imagine the inside of Pickaxe Mountain, not the outside, not the missiles. The inside, long underground corridors, industrial equipment, machines operating far away from the surface, a hidden world protected by layers of rock and secrecy. This is where warfare changes, because underground facilities represent a new kind of battlefield. The enemy is no longer simply a force standing across from you. The enemy is a system designed to survive. A bunker does not eliminate vulnerability. It moves vulnerability somewhere else. A nation that builds deeper does not remove the threat. It changes the question. Instead of asking, can we destroy this? The question becomes, can we influence the decisions surrounding it? And that is why intelligence becomes as important as firepower. Satellites watching from space, cyber systems searching for weaknesses, human intelligence gathering information, diplomatic pressure changing calculations. The invisible battlefield expands. The missile is not always the weapon. Sometimes the uncertainty created before the missile is ever launched becomes the weapon. This is where Pickaxe Mountain connects to the future of warfare, because more nations are learning the same lesson. Survival does not always come from having the strongest army. Sometimes it comes from making yourself too complicated to attack. A country does not need to become impossible to defeat. It only needs to make victory too expensive. This strategy is appearing across the world. Underground command centers, mobile missile systems, distributed weapons networks, hardened infrastructure. The goal is not complete protection. The goal is strategic uncertainty. If an opponent cannot know the cost of victory, hesitation becomes part of the defense. And that changes everything. Because deterrence is no longer only about threatening destruction. It is about creating doubt. But there is another layer, the political battlefield, inside government buildings in Washington, Tehran, Moscow, and Beijing. Leaders are not only asking military questions, they are asking historical questions. What precedent does this create? What message does this send? What will other nations learn from this decision? Because every major military action becomes a signal. A strike is never only a strike, it communicates what a country believes is acceptable, where its limits exist, and where those limits may disappear. This is why tactical nuclear weapons remain such a difficult subject. The debate is not only about their explosive power. The debate is about the meaning attached to their use. A weapon can be physically small, but strategically enormous. Consider Russia, consider China, consider North Korea. Each watches American decisions through its own strategic lens. A decision made against Iran would not stay inside Iran. Other governments would study it, analyze it, adapt their own strategies around it. That is the hidden chain reaction of modern warfare. One battlefield creates lessons for another. One decision changes calculations somewhere else. The world is connected. It is connected by military examples. The first country to cross a new threshold changes the environment for everyone after it. So what is the future of Pickaxe Mountain? The answer is not found only in weapons. It is found in pressure, military pressure, economic pressure, diplomatic pressure, information pressure. The United States may not need to destroy every facility if it can slow progress, increase costs, and influence decisions. Iran may not need complete security if it can make every possible response dangerous enough to discourage action. This is the new reality. Modern warfare is often fought before the first missile launches. It happens in calculations, in economic forecasts, in the silent moments when leaders decide how far they are willing to go. And this brings us to the biggest transformation. At the beginning, Pickaxe Mountain looked like a simple military problem, a bunker, a bomb, a target. But now the picture is different. The mountain is not simply hiding a facility. It is exposing the limits of military power itself, because the strongest weapon in the world cannot solve every strategic problem. Sometimes power creates more choices, but sometimes it creates more responsibility. The question is no longer whether the United States has the ability to strike Pickaxe Mountain. The ability exists, the technology exists, the plans exist. The real question is whether using that power would create a safer world or a more dangerous one. Because the future of warfare may not be decided by who has the biggest bomb. It may be decided by who understands the consequences of using it. So the final question is this. When a target becomes too dangerous to ignore but too risky to destroy, should nations rely on overwhelming force, or should they find new ways to win without firing the ultimate weapon? What do you think? Will future wars be won by the most powerful weapons, or by the countries that understand when not to use them?